StoryHinge, Episode 61, Silvia Turonova, Pain to Growth.
Then I came here, I struggled in my country. Then I came here, I struggled here. And all I kept doing was asking myself, why this has to happen to me? Which is one of the most disempowering questions we can ever ask ourselves. Because you don't get any answer really to that. We all are going through struggles or some challenges.
Welcome to StoryHinge, where we unfold more meaning and value in everyone's personal story. At StoryHinge, we explore foundational ideas and beliefs through diverse personal stories in order to discover more meaningful paths, greater happiness, and accelerated growth in one's life. We believe everyone has a beautiful story to grow. Now here's your host, Jason Vidaurri.
All right, well, welcome to StoryHinge, everyone. We're excited today. Today we have on Silvia Turonova, and Silvia comes with a background in several things: in motivational speaker, a writer, a life coach, an author of the book called Courage Within You, and a personal story of her own that has some interest for us here on StoryHinge. So with that, Silvia, welcome to StoryHinge.
Hey, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. And typical here on StoryHinge, we like to go back in the past a little bit first and hear a little bit about your story. And I think even going back with you to some of your youth and your teenage years, which were, I guess, as I see them, less than ideal. And hear some of that story and how that led to where you're at today. So why don't you take us back a little bit?
Well, I often think when people ask me, like, what is your story? Like, where should I start? And I probably start that I came from a low-income family, which I like people to know that because especially some of my clients or people who read my blog or so, they have a similar background, so they can resonate on that. But, well, I'm from Slovakia originally, and I came to the United States 6 years ago. Because, I had a dream, people say. And back home, I mean, I love my country, but, when I finished my bachelor's degree, I didn't really see a lot of opportunities for me to take care of myself and my mom back there. So I decided to move here.
Okay. I mean, that sounds pretty like you had that view of a change. You wanted to make some changes in your life. I guess foundationally before that, did you always have that in you, or were there other, I guess, beliefs or foundations that you had, I guess, from your childhood?
No. From my childhood, I didn't have that. I personally came from a very close-minded environment where people didn't have a lot of dreams. I was not surrounded by, dreamers and, people who talk about goals and stuff. So that really was not where I came from. And when I was pretty young, about age of 13, I got into, I started to hang out with people who didn't really have a right influence on me. And I started to experiment with drugs and, alcohol. I wanted to be all cool, like a cool kid or something like that. And 4 years after that, 5, I would say, I woke up and I said, what are you doing? Because I was really falling down. And since I didn't really have support in my environment, I was just, like following the lead. And then when I kind of like wake up and I realized that I am not really doing anything with my life, and that's not the way I'm going to be able to take care of my family, especially my mom. I decided that, I want to go to college. And that was really one of the biggest breakthroughs for me because at that point, I did not believe I can make it. Like, that was a big deal for me. I really thought that all I can do is go to high school, finish high school, and being a waitress. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Some people really make a great career as a waitress in some upscale places, but I saw myself in some little bar for the rest of my life, not because I wanted it, but because I thought that that's all I can actually do. So going to college and really changing my mindset to what if everything you've believed is incorrect, like who I am and, what my story is, which was really disempowering at that point. I actually made it to college and I got my bachelor's degree. And that was one of the biggest breakthroughs in my life where I started to question everything I believed about myself.
That's
Yes.
interesting because very much we talked about on this podcast before on how, we're kind of given that story in our youth and a certain framework that we start to work from. And it's hard to break that cycle of that if that's all we have, because we don't have when we're young, we don't have that context to know, hey, this is a bad story I'm telling myself. I have all these limits, and I believe all these limits. I keep telling my story. I'm just limited in this. A waitress is all I'm going to be. What was it for you? I mean, you mentioned college there, but was there something else that sparked that initial saying, hey, wait, maybe I can become more than just a waitress?
It was intolerable pain. I was in a pain from what I was at that point. I was in a pain from what I believed. On one hand, I did not believe that I can be anything more. And on the other hand, I tortured myself with the idea that this is all there is. So it was really that pain of pushing myself and always trying to be curious, like there has to be more. There has to be more. Like that was all I actually, I was asking myself every day for many, many, many years. And then after that, when you get to that point that you're in such a pain, mentally, you're in such a pain, like you just can't believe what is happening to you, that you break any fear, you break any beliefs, because you are like, now or never. Like something has to happen right now. I have to make some changes or some miracle or anything, people believe. So it was definitely pain, which, made me take action, or which made me really think and question myself.
Okay, that's very good. Yeah, because it's just curious to me on those things, on where other people might not have done that in the same situation as you, to take that pain and say, wait, I'm going to think about this. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to explore, and go to college. So why don't you take us back to where you're talking about college and what happened through that, and then you started questioning more things.
Well, yeah. So I went to college, and I really, after a long time, I had the best time ever. And then, as I finished, I was getting close to my bachelor's degree, and people around me were encouraging me to, to go higher with my title. And I just said that I don't feel it anymore. Then, when I finished and I had my bachelor's degree, in my country, I just did not see that many opportunities, even when I had, college, but still I did not see myself there, especially to take care of me and my mom, since my mom definitely, needed help, and she still needs it. So there was a big motivation for me to make a decision that I want to go to the United States, and I want to take advantage of many opportunities people have here. Because, for us, and, I don't want to speak for everyone, but especially for us immigrants, it's different when we come here, I think. We see maybe sometimes a bigger picture, more things than for people who actually live here, because people who live here, that's all they know. But when we come from the countries where we don't have that many opportunities, this is like, you come here and they are like, this is great. Like, I can really make something happen here. This is how I felt.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think about that too. I'm about, depending what line I look through, I'm either second to fourth or fifth generation born in the United States. And most of my family came from Mexico. But I look at my grandparents and some of them, and they came with kind of what you're talking about, with not a lot of hope from where they came from, but they came here with a lot of hope and saying, well, if you work hard, something can happen here. And
exactly.
We tend to lose that, being born here and having that around us our whole lives. So I do appreciate the immigration factor, and having, I think there's a positive influence of, maybe this is hitting some of our political realm here of what's going on in our country right now, but I think there's a strength in the immigrants, and they bring that can-do attitude. I've seen something really different than the United States, and you guys don't know what you have here. So it brings some perspective, I think, at least in my mind.
Yes,
I don't
yes,
know if you see
that's
that
true.
too. Yeah. Okay, so great. So you had this. I guess one question on that is, as you were growing, was it always, or where did you get that view from the United States that hey, this is a place you can have better opportunity?
That's funny story because after I finished my bachelor's degree, I came here to the United States for a few months to study English. It was like a gift, for a bachelor's degree to myself. So I came here to study, and after a few months, I went back home. And when I went back home, I told my friends and my family and everyone, I'm like, I'm going to United States. Like that's the place where I'm going to live. And everyone was like, come on, don't be crazy. You just went there. You had a little bit of fun. You study English. Like life was good. But how do you know? I'm like, I just feel it. I know it. No matter what, I'm going.
Hmm.
So and then after 4 months, I actually became a part of the program called au pair, where you become so-called like a part of American family. You take care of their children, and you get you get a visa, so you can be here, and that's how it all started. That's why I decided to come here.
Okay. Okay, and so I guess let's keep following that story as you came here and you're doing that. I'm sure that's not an easy transition. Whole nother culture, whole nother language. Why don't you tell us a
Yeah,
little about that? Yeah.
at the beginning it was very challenging. Like I was surprised how challenging it was for me at that time, because when I was coming here at the age of 22, I somehow felt that I have some life experience, okay? That I went through some challenges, in my country, and I know how to work hard, and all that stuff. So I'm like, it's not going to be that bad. And when I came here 6 years ago, literally in the first 2 months, I'm like, I'm going back home. And my friends are telling me when I talk to them on Skype that, come on, you don't give up, you're just there at start. I'm like, this is not giving up. This is not for me now. And they're like, so wait a minute. So 6 months ago there was the only option, and now you want to come back. So I was battling with this at the beginning, especially you feel lonely. You feel very lonely. Some people come here with the families, and so I came here all alone, just me, and that's it. So I was very lonely and very homesick. I didn't even expect that to happen. I thought it's gonna be easier, but
Hmm.
then I actually went to New Jersey, and me and my host family, we took a vacation to Florida. And Florida was actually the place where I was the first time, and where I made the decision that I want to come back. So after about two months of living in New Jersey, we came here for a vacation for about a week. And there was a breaking moment when I was literally standing at the same place, because we came here to Fort Lauderdale, where I'm from, and what I was here before as well. So I was literally standing at the same ATM, in the same gas station. And as I was standing there, I'm like, you know what? You came here for a reason. I went through the tough process of, to getting here. So I am not going to give up. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to make it happen. So then I actually, it helped me a lot. It was like those breakthrough moments when suddenly you get a whole new strength, whole new positivity, different perspective, and everything started to make sense again.
Yeah, definitely.
So I stayed in New Jersey for a year, and then I found a school down here in Florida, and then I moved down here after, and I've been living here since then.
Okay. Well, that sounds really cool. Maybe I want to dive into your story and how your story is changing through what you've told us. You talked earlier about having some of these limiting beliefs early on. Then you start, getting out of that and become more curious and finding out different avenues for that and thinking about things. So now that you're down in Florida, in the United States, kind of following that, how has your story changed? That internal story, I guess, is what I'm talking about, to yourself at this point.
You know what? I came down here and I was really excited because I really wanted to come here. It was like the place for me. It was the place where I, was for the first time. So I came down here and I had those high expectations of how great life is going to be. And it was the complete opposite. I was here maybe year and a half, and I found myself broke. I was very unhappy. And even my personal life was, pretty bad, because if you are not okay inside, it's going to reflect on everything else. I had a lot of problems, and, I had no money to my name. I had no job because I was going through a process of getting the visa. So it was really tough. And so I turned to a lot of motivational books and audios, because I had a lot of time on my hands. And I just said to myself, you know what, you have to change your thinking, because I was again getting into that point of huge pain. I was really just, I felt like I'm in some circle. I cannot get out. I don't know what to do. And I just have to find my purpose. I just felt I have to find my purpose, because I was here, I was here at that point, maybe 2-3 years. And then when I look back and I said to myself, you made this huge step, you sacrificed so much, you left all your close people behind. And now, like, what's the point? Like, you're not happy, what is it about? So I was turning to a lot of great content to kind of change my mindset at that point, because I knew that it's my mindset, it's my thinking, is how I see, my present situation, and that I have to do something about it. And I actually read a book from Tony Robbins at that point. It calls Awaken the Giant Within. And there he explains in like the best way possible I ever heard or read how pain works. And when I read that book, I was blown away how he explains that, even if we are in a pain, or even if when things don't work for us, or whatever our past is, like how we can actually use the pain. So I decided to create a blog, Courage Within You, because I said to myself, if I can get inspired and if I can grow by someone else's content or their knowledge or their support, maybe I can do the same thing for someone else. So that's why I created the Courage Within You. And the name, why I called it the Courage Within You, was because I felt really weak, but at the same time, I felt strong. And that's kind of a weird thing to say, but I just knew I have to fight. And I said to myself, no matter what is going to happen, or, or how much pain I have to, experience, or anything like that, I will survive. Like, I'm going to make it happen. So that's why I created the blog Courage Within You at the point, unemployed. And I started to write, blog posts, and I tried to inspire people, and I was writing for other different big blogs, and that's how it all started.
Okay. And as you're starting to consume more of these, motivational books, these self-help books, what were some of the big things that you found that you needed to change within yourself?
The way how I saw my past and the way how I saw my pain. Because as a child, I came from, I saw a lot of alcohol abuse and abuse in general, violence. Then I came here, I struggled in my country. Then I came here, I struggled here. And all I kept doing was asking myself, why this has to happen to me? Which is one of the most disempowering questions we can ever ask ourselves. Because you don't get any answer really to that. We all are going through struggles or some challenges. Every single person in this world. So there was like the best discovery, I would say, in my life, where I actually learned how to turn my pain into power. Like, okay, so I've experienced this. How can I use this? What if I, incorporated it in my story and I share it with someone else who's going through the same thing? Because if I dwell on it, I will never change. And that was actually the moment when I read the book from Tony Robbins, how he, explained everything about the pain. And I really started to work on myself and on my story and what all those struggles and challenges represent. That it's not something bad, that it's not negative, that it's something what was probably meant to happen, because, it's going to help me in helping others. So that was like the biggest breaking point in my life, where I finally felt like I understand pain, like I understand why I went through everything I went through in my life.
That's cool. That's very cool. And that's very empowering too, that you can start turning those things and saying, okay, yeah, this helps me take the next step in my life, and it's not something taking me down anymore.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So, a couple thoughts here. One is, as you're starting to, to get empowered a little bit in this, and it kind of fascinated that you said that right away you turned to blogging and turned to sharing this with others. Because my first response to that situation would be like, well, I don't know enough yet. I'm not developed enough yet to start sharing this with others. I'm curious on why you did that right away, do you think, and how that has helped you?
As you were saying, like, I felt like I don't know nothing. I really was at that point. When I look back now on the first articles, I'm like, how could you ever write that? But, I just felt like, I want to be heard, because I felt that there's just so many people who are going through problems and they don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. They fell into depression. They have maybe suicidal thoughts because they don't feel understood and they don't know what to do with the pain. So because of that, and I felt like I made little discovery, and maybe I can take this little discovery and help someone else, and also kind of vent in the article. Like when I put it on the paper, or when I write it in my laptop, it's like it's out, and I just thought that if I can be heard, I can help others who maybe, are at the end, who are hitting rock bottom hardcore and don't know what to do.
So let me hit kind of talking about your story and where you're at. What do you, or maybe this is a better way to say it, how do you break that pattern of your own negative story? You talk about maybe you're talking about these limiting things going in your mind and this story you're telling yourself. It sounds like part of your thing is getting exposure to new ideas. But I guess I sense still that those negative stories keep coming back, or they have some staying power, if you will. How do we get out of that cycle of that story, of that negative story?
One of the things which I started to do about a year ago is asking myself right questions. And one of the question I keep asking myself almost every day, if anything challenging happens to me or something what bothers me, I ask myself, what's in it for me? Like, what is the benefit? How can I use this? Because whatever we believe in our story, our life will unfold in proportion to that belief. If I believe that I've been given hardships and struggles because I'm supposed to be punished, or this is all I deserve, my life will unfold in proportion to that story. And if I believe that I've been given hardships so I can help others, so I can become stronger, so I can, share my knowledge with others, then my life will unfold in proportion to that belief. So I started to ask myself, instead of why is this happening to me, I started to ask myself question, what's in it for me? How can I use this?
That's good. I like that. That's good.
And one of the things also which I've used when I was going through my personal transformation was literally creating a fear, a vision that if you don't do anything about it, like right now, your life will look like this in the next 10 years. And that really scare me. Like that was really scary for me.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point, because I've heard that recently too. It's like sometimes we have that positive goal in the future, right? And we're striving for that positive thing. But I think there's some power to it also look at the flip side of that and say, it's almost like you let that positive goal pull you forward, but also let that fear push you if there's some fear on the flip side. That's what you're talking about. I think that's okay too. And both of those together become more powerful, I think.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I read on one of your blog or your on your website something about this concept. I want you to comment on it. It says you've spoken about losing our face or losing who we are. I'll ask you, can you explain what you were talking about and tell us how we find ourselves?
Losing who we are. Yes. No, I understand. In the way how I meant this was the way that sometimes, when you surround yourself with the wrong people and you kind of follow their pattern, even if it doesn't feel right, and especially at the times when we feel weak, like if I'm in a weak time of my life, if I can say it like that, like I feel down, things don't go my way or the way how I would like to be, then at one point in my life, I got influenced by people around me, by what people wanted me to be. Like I even like dressed differently. I was wearing stuff which I did not wear before, and it did not feel right, but it took me really some time to find myself in a way that, who do I want to be in my life? Like, how do I want to present myself?
Okay.
Like, do I want to be a leader or do I want to be a follower? And I mean, I guess it's a matter of time. At least for me, it was. It took me some time, and especially the breaking point for me was, and this is just so funny. One of my friends gave me a flowery dress for Christmas, and as silly as it sounds, I started to wear flowery dress because of, because I lost my identity and I never wear this type of dress. And this is such a silly thing to say, but when she gave it to me, that was really the breaking point for me. When I look at the dress and we know each other for 15 years and I say, why are you giving me this? And she's like, because I saw you wearing it. And like that really was the point when I realized, okay, wait a minute. Am I being the person who I wanted to be? Do I present myself the way I am? Or, am I this powerful woman I want to be, or am I this little girl I am playing to be because someone want me to be a little girl, someone want me to be maybe obedient. So that was like, it's silly. I know it kind of sounds weird, but they kind of woke me up at that point.
No, that's a good point though, because I mean, sometimes it is those little, seemingly little things I would say, but your clothing is very much a representation of your your inward presenting outward self. So I could see very much where that kind of struck you and say, wait a minute here, this is not me.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things when like a little thing happened, like a dress, which I would never thought about it, but like this little thing happened and suddenly you have this huge realization that, okay, wait a minute, who I am. Is this how people see me? So there was a moment for me when I realized a lot that, I'm going back to who I was. I'm going to be dressing the way how I want. I'm going to be acting the way how I want because this is who I am.
There's a concept out there. I've seen a few different places now, and it's this concept, and I'm going to ask you to comment on it. It's this idea, if there's this memory we have that's probably older than, say, 18 months, older than a couple years old, and it keeps festering with us. It keeps coming up in our minds. One of the thoughts is that that's your own brain telling you, hey, there's something to deal with. There's something to deal with, or something to learn from this thing that happened to you. I mean, does that resonate with you, or does that sound, what do you think of that idea?
You mean like when something from the past is coming back to you all the time?
Correct.
I definitely think that there is something, some type of unresolved emotion or unresolved problem. I think it also depends how you feel when it comes. Like if you feel anxious or you feel fear or, some type of disempowering emotion, or do you feel, peace? Because we often look back, I mean, we all do in the past, but if you look on some memories, do you feel like, you're in a balance with that? You're in a peace with that? It feels okay? Or do you still feel like, like something is pressing on your chest? And I think that if you feel that like that, something is pressing on your chest, that means that probably you are not okay with that yet, or you
Okay.
didn't even really look back and analyze what happened. How do how you feel about it? And so I really think it's something true on that.
Okay. Any advice on what you do with that then? If you do have one of those things that say, hey, this is still bothering me, this is still pressing on me, it's part of my story, but it's still pressing on me, what can I do with that?
What I would do is to kind of analyze what I feel when I think about it. Like, first thing is, how do I feel when I think about this memory? And literally write it down. I was doing this with some of my past memories when I knew that I am not okay with that. Like, let's say something come back to me and I literally start crying. So I know I'm not okay with that yet. So I kind of made a list of how I feel and why do I feel like this? Like, why do I still feel this pain? Or maybe why do I still feel this anger? And if there is some other person involved in that memory, making sure that, have I forgiven this person, let's say, or in any way to find that peace, and especially know, what do you feel? Is there frustration? Is it anger? Like, to kind of identify those emotions, because I think that sometimes when something really devastating happens to us and we don't want to think about it, we don't even think about it. Like, we don't even consider this memory, and we just kind of try to always just brush it off and not paying any attention to it. And then later on, as you said, 12, 18 months, it's going to catch up on us. So I definitely, one of the things I do is identifying my emotions and trying to understand why I feel how I feel, because once I understand why I feel this way, then I can kind of work towards solution.
That's good. That's good. You actually might, when you're sharing that and talking about writing it and talking about what you feel and the whys on you feel that, you're basically breaking down that situation, that memory. You remind me of I think back at episode 52, I had Rusty McDonald on, and she had a pretty traumatic, I guess upbringing is how I would frame it, and being molested as a child.
Yes, I heard that.
And it really blew me away when she talked about it took her 30 years to finally come to the point and say, wait, this is not my fault. I was 3 years old. This is not my fault. He was I think she framed it as, he was a grown ass man. It was not my fault.
Wow.
And I think part of it, I like some of the things you said, that the thinking about why we feel things. And then that writing down, I think, is a good process, because it lays things out for our brains to be able to see it differently other than just thinking about it. So I appreciate that.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that when we write down anything, of this nature, or even when we have like a gratitude journal, when you write it down, it kind of, it becomes more official, it becomes more real. Like, when I put down that I'm feeling angry, now I'm really looking at it like, okay, you're feeling angry and now it's real, so you got to do something about it. Then if we only think about it.
All right. I did want to touch a little bit back on your story. We kind of left it off to a few years ago. Why don't you bring us up to speed on where you're at now? You have a book out there, and bring us up to your work today.
Well, once I started The Courage Within You 2.5 years ago, I was writing this blog, and about 1.5 years, I felt really stuck. Like, I didn't know if I'm doing the right thing. I wasn't really seeing any results. So I became a part of a 4-month program for building a personal brand with Joel Brown, which was one of the best decisions I could have made, and investments as well. So, and as I was talking to him once, he's saying, how about you write a book? And I said to myself, I've never even thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I probably can write a book. He's like, yeah, you have over 200 articles on Courage Within You. So just write a book and, give it a name, Courage Within You. So this is how the book was actually born. And then right now, I still do have my full-time job, my day job. And then on the side, I wrote Courage Within You, and I am building my coaching business, because that's really what I want to get on it full-time in the future. So this is where I'm right now.
And what is it about that doing this full-time that you, why go down that path versus just staying in a more traditional job?
You mean like coach?
Yeah.
Like, why? I just feel a need, and I don't want it to sound corny, but I just feel a need to kind of help others, because I help myself a lot with, as I told you before, with other people content and advice, and kind of, focusing on mindset, on how to, improve our lives and all that. And it really, really helped me in my life. So I would like to share this with other people and make this as my job, if I can say it like that. It's like, for me, it's probably the best future I can imagine for myself. I think it would be something what truly fulfills me, because what I have now, it is really like, you just go to job, you come home, and you call it a day. There is nothing fulfilling. And one of the things what kind of scares me is to have this 9 to 5, but to go to job which does not really mean anything to you, or where you're not happy. And with coaching and with my experience so far, I really feel that there can be something as fun and as work and fulfillment and just all together, you know. So I'm really looking forward to that. And plus writing, that's something I really enjoy, especially more maybe even a book than a blog post. Like to being in the process of writing a book and then, self-publishing it and getting things done, and working with editor, working with designer, like all that is just very exciting for me.
Great. And if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way to do that?
They can just go to my personal website, which is www.silviaturon.com. That's Silvia, SilviaTuron.
Okay. And we'll definitely put those links in, as always, on the website and on the podcast itself.
Thank you.
I guess coming here, maybe wrapping things up a little bit or getting closer to, what would you say to someone out there, maybe in an earlier path and compared to where you're at now? Maybe an immigrant that's just gotten to the United States and they're struggling and trying to figure things out. And I guess outside of the advice you've already shared a ton with us, but is there something else you would tell that person?
One thing what I would tell probably to anybody, which helped me personally, is always trying to see benefits, even in the most difficult situations of your life. That really, because if we can change the perspective, and really see the life that it's a phenomenal place to be at, like it's great no matter what happens, then I think we can find, true happiness. And even in the future, when something happens, you're not going to be so bummed about it because you understand that, wait a minute, this happened, and even if it hurts or it's terrifying or it's difficult, where is this benefit? What's in it for me? How can I use this? And for many people who are immigrants, I bet they are dealing with a lot of struggles. They are dealing with loneliness, but like always to keep that picture in front of you. Why am I doing it? Especially when you're feeling like giving up, whether it's on your business or moving back home, like why am I doing it? What's my purpose? Like always seeing a bigger picture and understanding struggles.
Very good. I have to ask another thing here.
Sure.
You got me thinking about it's kind of this I think this happens a lot for people trying to strive these entrepreneurial types or these self-improvement types. There's this striving for improvement, right? We want to change, we want to get better. Yes. There's also on the other side, there's this acceptance and this finding happiness and joy in where we're at today. How do you like balance that back and forth, or do you have any concept or advice on that, on how, because you want to be improving, but you don't get overwhelmed so much with that you forget the blessings you already have today.
Exactly. That's very true, and this is so on point, this question. One of the things I stopped doing was following other people too much, like what everyone else is doing. Really keeping that laser focus. This is my work. This is what I want to do today, this week, and this month, and this is all I focus on. Because even when you're building the business, but then you like look at your competition and you are like, okay, they are doing better. It always going to knock you down, and it's going to make you feel bad about yourself. So any type of competitors, you need to know what other people are doing, so you stay kind of up to date, but stop looking on, other people's grass. Just focus on yourself and, do your daily task, do your weekly task, and just stick to that. That's one of the things I would say to do, which helped me a lot, because before I was like scrolling down and watching other people's videos, and I was just feeling, they are doing much better than me. And this is just so, it's that comparison with others. It's very disempowering, and it steals all the excitement about what you even want to do, So, and then one of the things I also started to do about a year ago is my morning ritual, where every morning I remind myself, as corny as it sounds, 3 things I'm grateful for, because that kind of keeps me in check. Like, you're not where you want to be yet, but this is what you have today. Be grateful today, because when we level up in life, there is always another place we want to level up to. And then we want to level up. And this is just like the game you never win. So if you always wait, like, if I achieve this, then I'm going to be happy. And then you achieve it. And then it's, another one. If I achieve this, then I'm going to be happy. And you actually are never happy. So really practicing gratitude helped me tremendously in my life, because I was feeling, a lot of time bad about myself, especially when I started with a blog. I felt like I always sucked, and everyone else is doing better. And instead of spending my time on my own life and on my own work, I kept looking on other people's successes and, achievements, and it's just robbed me of any excitement I could have used towards what I'm doing.
That's very good. That's very good, and something we need to keep in mind. I think I've had gratitude is coming up on quite a few of my podcasts recently. I think that's a message maybe I need to hear, maybe the audience needs to hear, because we need to practice gratitude even more. That's been a common theme. So I thank you for that.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
And thank you for your time and for sharing with us here on StoryHinge. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason. It was great. It was really good chatting with you.
All right, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for spending time with us. And thank you to Silvia for being with us here on StoryHinge. You'll be able to find her contact information, a link on the website, and also a link in the podcast notes. It's silviaturon.com, silviaturon.com, to find more information about her and some of the work that she's involved in. And I guess a few thoughts before we depart today. One is that this concept of pain or this uncomfortability, sometimes challenge, and I think sometimes we look at that as a negative thing. I know I have. And we want to just get through it, get away from it. But I think sometimes we can utilize that more, or it can push us to better places. I heard some of that in Silvia's story. Maybe that we allow those situations and those times to push us to better places is one way to look at it. So that was definitely something to think about. We heard some more about what we do with our own story. How do we examine our own story? And again, writing was brought up as a valuable tool to write some of our story down. That gives us a chance to examine it, to look at those details within it. And I think Silvia also brought up bringing up, writing about your feelings at that time. And maybe even going a step further and saying, trying to understand those feelings at that time can be useful. So that's pretty good. This reminds me of this, so far, and here in season 2, we've heard a lot about personal story and what we do with that. Now, that's not going to be our only focus. That's one of the focuses this season 2. But it gets me to think we're learning all these different things, and I'm having the plans to assemble these different things and give you all an easier way to see all that, a format, a note page or two to summarize some of these things. So look forward to that coming in the future here. Another thing I liked about this was the not getting overly focused on other people and what they're doing. Even, especially people in your own field are doing a similar thing to you. I can easily feel that as a podcaster and being pretty new. And then you see all these other podcasters doing these great things and having these huge audiences, and you're like, oh, well, I'm not even close to that. And that could spiral down if we're not careful. So I think it's important to have some knowledge and to keep learning about what's out there and to know about competition, but not to get overly focused on others and even all the things they do. Sometimes we get caught up in that, but there's a little bit of, I guess in my mind, a little bit of that independence and focusing on your work and just keep pushing through and keep building up that momentum. Like I said, we seem to have a lot on personal story, but I guess I want to give you a little foreshadowing of what's to come. We actually have quite a few guests coming up here that we'll be sharing with us soon. We have a couple previous guests coming back, and they'll be sharing more in depth about story and story in their life, as well as we have quite a few storytellers coming on. We have a little mini series on different storytellers. We have some live oral storytellers, as well as those involved in written stories and book writing, and we'll be hearing from them shortly. As well as, I think we'll be also tapping into the intersection of technology and story. And what does that look like? Perhaps speculating what that looks like going in the future and the evolution of story with technology. So some really exciting things coming up. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to bringing these guests to you. Wishing you for a great week. Go out there and create a little bit better story for yourself, for those around you. We hope things are moving well for you out there, and be sure to subscribe, share the podcast with others. Other people you think need to have better story in their life or want to learn more about story, the story creation, storytelling. that's what we're about here in season 2. So thank you for joining. We'll catch you next week. Have a great one.
Thank you for sharing with us at StoryHinge. We hope this time together has added more goodness to your journey. Until next time, onward and upward, and may your own story continue to grow more beautiful.